Hey guys, Mumbles here with another New World video, and today we're going to talk about a couple of the first few expeditions. Just because there's a little bit that people don't know, and people are a little kind of skeptical about expeditions as a whole, just because they're a dungeon crawl. I'm going to kind of give my review on each one and where you should be at before you start each expedition. A lot of these expeditions have different aspects to them. Some are more puzzle based, some are more combat based, some are more challenging than others. However, there is some kind of area where you should be before you start trying these. That way, it's a little bit easier for you, as well as being able to get the experience that you want rather than just frustration. So in the background, you're going to see me playing Depths with a couple of my friends. We're going to be running through Depths, which is a little bit more challenging one, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's jump right in. I'm going to give you guys my review on each of the first three expeditions, which is Amrine, Starstone, and Depths. Just so you guys can understand a little bit about what each one is about and what to expect from each one and where you should be at before you start the expeditions to lessen the frustration and kind of help with the immersion into the game. So our first dungeon we're going to talk about is Amrine. That is essentially the introductory dungeon. It is the first dungeon you come across in the main storyline. There's a couple side quests for it. You have the Barkamedes quest. There's a couple faction quests for it. There's quite a few quests inside of this dungeon. But it is like the introductory dungeon. There is no incredibly challenging. There is some new mechanics introduced with the ghost, the purple ghost, which is like the halfway boss, as well as the last boss is just a giant brute. But for the most part, it's just a basic dungeon. There's not many complicated puzzles. Essentially, the only puzzle you have to find in the area is just 3 buttons. You got to stand on the 3 buttons. It opens the bridge and you can cross the bridge. This dungeon has very low, complicated, mechanics in it. The bosses are pretty straightforward. They're easy to dodge, easy to kind of get through once you know what you're doing. The purple ghost does get people off guard quite a bit until you know the mechanics of it. So do be aware going into this one. However, it's a basic dungeon. It's not anything to be challenging. Is to get people introduced into dungeons, understand them, understand what to look for, how to do stuff, what you can do. It's a great all-around dungeon. It's a great introductory. Early levels, you could probably attempt it around 23 with a good squad. 25 is the recommended level. However, 23 you could probably get by as a tank or a healer. DPS, you may have a little bit more of an issue. Going out of 23, you may want to wait to your 25. The next dungeon we're going to talk about is Starstone Burrows. This is probably one of my favorite ones just because of the lasers and the puzzles and stuff like that. Having to use the Azov staff for protection. I absolutely love this dungeon. The boss at the end is very challenging, but still very, possible to beat. Starstone has a very unique way to deal with this dungeon. It's a bunch of lasers that you then have to use an Azov staff to either get through them, or there are different ways to kind of get around or under them or over them. So you don't die, and the lasers do insta kill. So it is a little bit more, complicated in the fact that it's a different puzzle. The combat is actually kind of complicated. I would say like a moderate level. You do need to be 35 for this dungeon. You can complete it again 2 to 3 levels before. However, this dungeon does get a little bit more complicated, so I do recommend till you're at least 35 for all different types of roles. The big boss at the end is a 2-phase boss. There isn't really like a mid-level, mid boss. The mid boss is just 2 elite level skeletons that are just basic guys that fight you. One guy's got a spear that throws like a javelin. The other one's got 2 swords. It's an okay dungeon. I absolutely love it. It's fun. It's enjoyable. The puzzle's fun. However, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably gonna get lost, because if you let go of the Azov staff at the wrong time, you can actually get stuck in certain places. So it is best to run this with someone who knows where they're going a few times before you know what you're doing. Again, the last boss is a 2-phase boss. Does catch people off guard the first time. I know it caught me off guard. Even though I was told it was a 2-phase boss, I still got caught off guard with this thing. So it's fun though. It's a nice challenging boss. A little bit more complicated mechanics, but still very easily able to be kited and beat. So all in all, Depths is the next big one, and this is probably one of the more complicated ones for the level. It is recommended to be 45. However, a lot of people do recommend to be 50. There is a couple DPS checks in this dungeon, as well as the puzzle is not very complicated either. Usually it's just holding down certain amount of points with the Azov staff together. But for the most part, this dungeon is more combat based. It's a lot more challenging. The enemies hit harder, they take more damage. That's what Depths is about. Depths is more of the combat based. The mid boss is incredibly hard with the mines. If you don't destroy all the mines before he activates the ability, you end up, everyone takes damage no matter how far away they are. However, once again, there are some easy, I guess, ways to kind of get through this. You can dodge roll through the explosions. You have to be perfectly timed, but you can dodge roll through them. But this boss, the mid boss, is incredibly hard. Again, after the mid boss, you do have a more complicated combat kind of steps of people that you have to fight, as well as the last boss being Captain Thorpe, which is a very, very hard, very tanky boss. He is a 2-phase boss as well, who does spawn ads. He spawns 2 very, very large kind of brute corrupted creatures. And in the main storyline, this is very crucial to the main storyline. You do find out a lot about what's going on, how it's going on, and stuff like that through the lore, as well as the fight with Captain Thorpe. So all in all, I do like how Amarine is very, I guess, kind of introductory. Starstone kind of introduces more of the puzzle aspect, and then at Depths does increase on the combat spectrum. However, Depths, again, don't try it till you're level 50 unless you have a really, really good squad or a couple people that are super high level. That way they can kind of carry your slack, because again, 45, like I did this, I think at like 43 or 42, and I was pretty much struggling to get through this. Like I even though I did a very, very high amount of DPS, because I think I was rocking like 270, 280 dex at this point, I was still having trouble dealing with that damage. So just keep an eye out for that. So I'm going to kind of rate the expeditions now. So Amarine, I would say, is about a 6 or a 7. It's a really great introductory, but beyond the introductory portion, it's not very challenging. You can kind of get through the mobs pretty easy. They're easy to dodge, easy to block. Nothing really challenging. It's just an introductory one, but a great introductory one at that. Starstone is probably my favorite out of these 3. I do like the lasers and the puzzles, as well as the hard combat. It's got a nice balance between the two. It's very fun. It's enjoyable. Depths was just a nightmare. I don't know if it's just because I was low level, but Depths is also very challenging, which I enjoyed. I did enjoy the challenge of the combat, but again, do try this out when you're like level 50. Do level up a little bit further, just so that you can have a little bit more enjoyable, less challenging experience. But if you like a challenge, don't feel afraid, or don't feel bad about going in a few levels early. Again, I do recommend a full squad for this, of people that are well-rounded, just because it is a very complicated dungeon. Starstone, I would probably give an 8 or a 9. And then Depths, I'd probably give about a 7 or an 8. I'd probably go with an 8 for Depths, just because the puzzle aspect really isn't there. It's just a straight combat. It just feels like you're aimlessly running through ads. But the boss fights are challenging and enjoyable that way. So thank you guys. I hope this helps you out on when to go into a dungeon, what level you should be at, my review of each one, what to expect, and just a very like undermining kind of aspect of just kind of what the dungeons are about. You have ones that are more puzzle based, you have ones that are more combat based, and we're going to see these more and more down the line when they start introducing a lot more dungeons. They have said that they are going to put in a ton more dungeons, so we can expect that. So I'm super excited to see what they do with these. I'm just excited to see what the puzzles are, what the combat is, see anything unique that they're going to do, because they do say that they are going to make them all unique and different from each and every one of the other dungeons. So I'm kind of excited to see where their creativity is going to go with this. I know that there has been rumors of dungeons being where you have more than 5 people, like 10-person raids, 6-person raids. I have heard of 2-3-man people having to work parallel, working together on each individual puzzle that has to be done by the other person, like information passing and stuff like that. That would be kind of interesting, as well as the 10-person raids being just absolutely chaos. We have no idea what these look like, but I can kind of assume that there's gonna be a lot of creativity and a lot of just a lot of craziness, which I'm super excited for. But I hope this guys helps you out in what to expect. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Goodbye. Deuces, y'all.